Hi, today I'm going to be talking about some of the challenges of completing a thesis by publication. I completed a TBP myself and I've spent the last several years researching the model. I think that it's a model that has a lot of benefits, but also that there are many challenges that need to be considered so that you can decide whether the option is best for you, but also how you can ensure that some of these challenges don't become things that impede your ability to complete your degree. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about this particular paper that you can take a look at for some more details. But basically what we found through our study are 5 challenges that were independently raised by our participants across the sample, irregardless of their field or their institution. So these are challenges that really many candidates faced during the candidature. So I'm going to talk to each of these, and I'm going to share a new quote from each of our participants. Okay, so first is developing a cohesive thesis. So within a TBP, you're likely to have multiple publications. They are obviously reporting different elements of your research. They have different audiences for the different journal outlets that you have published in. But for most fields, and this may not be the case in all fields, but for most fields, there is an emphasis on the thesis, the document that you submit, being more than just a sum of the papers. So what there usually needs to be is a single and coherent and cohesive submission where the papers are integrated within that document. So that obviously can be quite difficult because each of the publications are quite different in their tone or their voice, their style, their formatting. And then at the same time, there is often a requirement that repetition is avoided as much as possible. Now, if you've got 3 papers reporting different aspects of one study, you're going to have things that are repeated. The participants need to be introduced in each case. The methods adopted need to be introduced in each case. The literature that you review are obviously going to be a lot of overlap. So this was something that many of our participants struggled with, and indeed I struggled with as well. So next is managing the publication process, and of course this process is central to the TBP, but it's not one that's easy. It's not one that takes into consideration the fact that we are doctoral candidates, that we are early in our journey, that perhaps we need a little bit more support. We're in there with everyone, thrown into the deep end. And so negotiating this process can be quite challenging. Even if things go smoothly, they take a long time. There are a lot of elements to learn, but for most of the time, things aren't going to go smoothly. This is the reality for everyone, not only early career researchers, but dealing with rejection, dealing with reviewers that have competing opinions about your paper. These are things that are going to be perhaps a steep learning curve for many who adopt the TBP. Next is time pressures. So as I just mentioned, even if things go smoothly, the publication process is notoriously long in some fields, particularly so. And then if you throw in a rejection or major revisions, then the timeline is going to be extended. And this is not a timeline that, the doctoral candidature timeline cannot in most cases be changed, and so this may cause a lot of stress for candidates who are looking to finish by a particular deadline. Next is supervisory support, and of course with any form of doctoral education, if there is strong, adequate support from the supervisor or supervisory team, this is going to be a positive thing for the candidate, and if the supervision is lacking or absent or inadequate, then that's going to cause some challenges. For the TBP, these challenges are likely to be complicated by the fact that many supervisors take on a different role, and that is of a co-author. So if a supervisor doesn't have the interests of the candidate at heart, but perhaps their own career progression, this can cause challenges. And we have several cases where participants were forced to submit to very high impact journals, one particular journal named several times in our study, and then to getting a rejection and the emotional trauma, as you can see in this quote, that results can be really have a real negative impact on our candidates. Although I will say for the most part, our candidates were extremely satisfied with the level of supervisory support that they received. But for those who didn't, this can cause a really negative impact on their journey. And finally is the institutional support. And again, for any model, institutional support should be strong. We found overall that many participants were less satisfied with their institutional support. There were many cases where the TBP there were no guidelines or conflicting guidelines. We think that this is going to be changing. It's a model that's growing, and so many institutions are rectifying this. But the first thing that you probably want to do is to go and have a look at what support is there, what guidelines are there that is provided by your institution. Yes, so they are the challenges that were raised by our participants. They've also raised a range of benefits. So if you want to go take a look at my other video, if you have any questions, please pop them in the comments. And thanks for listening. Thank you.